You know, it's kind of funny when you really stop and listen to the things we say. The English language is absolutely packed with strange little phrases that, well, they don't make a lot of sense on their own. Today, we're going to dive in and crack the code on some of these hidden stories. I mean, think about it. If your boss tells you to cut corners on a big project, your first thought probably isn't to go find a pair of scissors, right? Of course not. But that's a perfect example of how wild our language can be. So what's the deal with these phrases? Well, there's a name for them, idioms. And an idiom is basically a secret code. It's a phrase where the individual words don't matter as much as the overall idea they represent. It's this cultural shortcut that we all just get. So let's decode a few. All right, first up, let's tackle that one we just mentioned, cutting corners. Let's look at what it sounds like versus what it really means. So you've got this literal image, right? Just slicing the corner clean off a piece of paper or wood. But what it actually means is to do a job in the quickest, cheapest, and easiest way you possibly can. And you know what that usually leads to? Yep, not so great results. It's all about sacrificing quality for speed. And you've probably heard it used just like this. The moment someone says this, you immediately know the deal. The builders probably used cheap materials, or they rushed the job, and now you've got a problem. No scissors involved, just a puddle on the floor and a big headache. Okay, on to our next one, which creates a pretty hilarious mental picture. Biting off more than you can chew. Just picture it, someone trying to stuff a sandwich the size of their head into their mouth. It's a perfect visual because that's exactly what the idiom means. You've taken on a task or project that is just way too big for you to handle. It's that classic story of ambition clashing with reality. Oh man, who hasn't been there? You say yes to one thing, then yes to another, and all of a sudden you are completely overwhelmed. You are drowning in work. You've taken on way more than you can handle, and you just know it's gonna get messy. Now for our last idiom. This one is my favorite because it has such a cool origin story that takes us way back in time. Let's talk about how to beat around the bush. So first, let's just make sure we're on the same page. Today, when we say someone's beating around the bush, we mean they're talking about anything and everything except the one thing we need them to talk about. They're avoiding the main point, probably because it's awkward or uncomfortable. But why? Why do we say beat around the bush? It seems so random, doesn't it? Well, it turns out it's not random at all. The answer takes us back about 500 years to the world of medieval hunting. So get this. Back in medieval Britain, a popular sport was hunting birds. The problem was, the birds would hide deep inside thick bushes, so the hunters would hire assistants, and their job was to literally beat the ground and the air around the bush with sticks. They weren't supposed to hit the bush directly. That was the hunter's job. Their role was to make a lot of noise nearby to scare the birds out into the open. See? It was an indirect action, designed to get to the main point without ever touching it, and that became the perfect metaphor for what we mean today. So, what's the big idea here? What does all this tell us? Well, what's so cool about idioms is how efficient they are. They're like little communication shortcuts. In just a few words, they paint a whole picture. Cut corners instantly screams cheap or bad quality. Bite off more than you can chew perfectly captures that feeling of being overcommitted. And beat around the bush immediately signals that someone is avoiding something. They're incredibly powerful. And that's really the magic of it all. These idioms are like little fossils hiding in our language. Every single time you tell someone to stop beating around the bush, you are actually echoing a 500-year-old hunting tactic. Our language is basically a living museum, and these phrases are the exhibits, each with its own incredible hidden story. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, what about when you spill the beans or you break the ice? You're tapping into this deep, living history every time you talk. So I'll leave you with this question. What's an idiom you use all the time, and what forgotten story do you think might be hiding inside it?